Hi viewers, I hope you are preparing for your Christmas and it is festive season. And it is of course, it's cold. But in this cold weather, we are going to discuss about the life of entrepreneur. He came from Pakistan, but he has made some records. We'll discuss his life in this show. Welcome in our show.
Thank you.
Mr. Shabir, please tell us about your early childhood and your education.
My childhood was in Pakistan. I was born in Rawalpindi. I was there till the age of 7. That's when my father brought me and my mother over. My father was here. He was working in the textiles before that. And it was 1975 when he decided to ask me and my mother to join him here.
So which was the city where you moved?
We moved to a very famous city in the UK known as Bradford.
So when you moved here, how you find the life? Because obviously you moved from totally different culture, different language, different background.
It was a shock to the system. But when you're at that age, it's not difficult to adjust. You know, if I was at this age, maybe I'd struggle more. But when you're a youngster and at that age, it's easy because your brain's open and you pick things up quick, you learn languages quick. So it's much easier as a child to settle in a new environment than maybe for an adult.
So in education system, so it was difficult to get adjusted in school or?
Sure, for the first year especially because I couldn't speak a word of English. So I was absolutely lost. But the advantage was I wasn't sent to a mainstream school. I was sent to sort of a learning school where there was other people, other children like myself overseas who were taking English as a second language, but at the similar kind of ages. So at least I could communicate with the other children, although I couldn't communicate at all to save my life for the first 3-4 months at all, a word of English. But again, being at that age is easy because your brain is more recipient and you can pick things up much faster.
And if we'll talk about today's education, at that time education, which time you prefer that was good and golden time?
I think that was definitely golden. I think it was brilliant. I think the teachers gave so much time, they gave so much attention. And now some of the Ofsted reports we keep hearing about and some of the behavior that the children go through, it's unbelievable, it's shocking. There are things that are happening in schools now by students, which in those days, in that era, was unheard of. You wouldn't even dream of doing such things because there was the fear of the teacher, there was the fear of the pump, there was fear of the cane, and these things kept you disciplined. These things kept you in order, and I think by losing these, we've lost that respect what the youngsters had for the elders. So I don't think that it's any better now than what it was then.
And after school, what was the next destination then?
After school, my destination was, I believe it or not, I wanted to become a carpenter stroke joiner. That was my choice. Even at school, although academically I was pretty average, but any subject that was more physical, for example, design technology, technical drawing, woodwork, metalwork, that's where my forte was. So I was always a man that was going to end up working with his hands. And that's what I wanted. But in the sort of mid to late 80s, looking for an apprenticeship as a carpenter joiner was very difficult because it was a dying industry. And what was happening was, maybe 10 years before that, 15 years before, if you needed a cabinet or if you needed a drawer, if you needed a chair, you actually went to a cabinet maker or you went to a joiner shop to get a door. But then, mid-80s and 90s, well, these things were mass-produced in factories by hundreds and hundreds. So the whole game was changing. I struggled. I couldn't get an apprenticeship. However, I ended up in a restaurant, quite coincidentally, sort of out of the blue, really. And it was one day when our milkman came to collect money. Although in that time, the milk, when we didn't go to Asda or Co-op, it was delivered daily fresh to the door. Anyway, Sunday, milkman came in and he says to me, Dad, he says, Shabir sat at home. He says, this is a couple of months now. See, every time I come, he's sat at home. He's not studying. They says, no, he's looking for apprenticeship. He says, well, that's all right, but look, we've got a job. His brother had a restaurant in Keighley, and he says, we need somebody. He says, yeah, but he's never worked. He has no experience. He says, oh, don't worry. He can speak English, can't he? That's good enough. and that's it. That was my interview. Next thing, right, Friday, you're going to work in a restaurant.
So what was your first job?
First job, I believed before I got there that I was going to be a waiter. However, upon arrival, I was told to go into the kitchen, peel 2 bags of onion. God, that was hard work. I think, now if you ask me to cook for 7,000 people, I can organize that within an hour. We can cook all of that food in a matter of 8 hours, 9 hours. But them 2 bags of onions were the hardest and the longest and the most painstaking job. Because A, I'd never cut them. So you can imagine the water running down my tears. It was just, and it was just misery. I'm thinking, what the hell am I doing here? I don't think I bargained for this. However, at the end of 2 bags, the chef decided to reward me. And he offered me a plate of chips with a glass of Coke. And fantastic. It was the best chips I ever had. And then I went on to peeling potatoes, and we kind of served very few customers. And the ones we did, they were usually towards the closing time when the pubs shut. So you can imagine it wasn't the most friendliest of the environment. It was in Keighley. Keighley had its own serious reputation for being a little bit, quite a bit of racist town at that time. So very hard.
So how long you worked there with that organization?
I worked there for 6 weeks before I got fired.
You've been fired then?
I was fired because the owner of the restaurant, very nice guy, God bless him, Mr. Zaman, he sat me down after 6 weeks and he says, Shabir, he says, you know what? He says, you're a nice guy. He says, you can be a pilot, you can be a truck driver, you can be whatever you probably want, because I don't think this job's for you. And I said, why? He says, you're too nervous, and he goes, you're not learning, and he goes, you're a bit scared. I said, well, they're very scary people. And I imagine I was only 18, and I was a skinny little boy. And so all these big, beefy guys, with tattoos, shaven head, and come to this restaurant. And it was very intimidating. And he says, but you're not learning. And he says, I don't think this is for you. So I actually got fired in the first 6 weeks, which I have to thank him. I have to thank him because he's partly due, the reason due for my success. Because when I spoke to a friend and then he says, look, he says, you can't do that. He says, you have to fight this. You have to deal with this. You can't be beaten. He goes, otherwise you'll be beaten everywhere in life. He says, you have to go get another job, get in a restaurant, and you have to make a go of it. And that was a motivation I kind of had. So it was kind of personal sort of.
At that time, if we'll talk about which restaurant was leading at that time in the 80s, we talk about the Asian restaurants.
The single-handedly, the most leading restaurant in Bradford was a restaurant called Sheikh's. It was in the city centre. It was a massive chapel that was converted into a restaurant. Fantastic. It was just something out of a movie scene. In Leeds, you had a group, a small chain called Shabab. They were fantastic. They were ahead of the game. So these two were the main restaurants. And it was at this Sheikh's place in Bradford that was my second job, which was brilliant. It was the kind of place I wanted to be. It was a kind of place where the customers were nice. They came in, they spoke to you nicely. They were civil. They were friendly. They used to leave tips. The things that you never kind of heard or seen at the other first place. And this was the place that kind of where I decided that's my career now. This is where I'm going to stay, and I'm going to make a go of it in this business. And
do you remember any people you worked with there in Sheikh's?
Oh, I remember all of them.
Do you want to count some of them if they're watching our show today?
Yeah, there was an Iranian manager called Adid, fantastic guy. He was brilliant. There was another manager called Mr. Shirazi, who I believe he's somewhere in Manchester. There was another manager that I had called Shazad, who's an accountant now, fantastic guy. So I've found memories working with these people because I was sort of so eager and trying so hard to surpass everybody.
Shabir, you met a lot of people during your career. So any personality which has impressed you a lot and you have followed him, that this is my hero, this is my champion, I'm going to follow his life steps.
Yes, I have one champion that I follow, not in the line of work that I do in my restaurant. He has his own restaurant. He has his own style. He is his own person. So we're very two different characters. But if I had to award one guy as my role model, it would be Mohammed Aslam from the Agra Group. I really salute this guy. I think he's worked fantastic. I think he's just a brilliant man at what he's achieved from in the times that he was working at. Brilliant. This guy is a chef. He's a manager. He's just all around. He's my role model.
Luckily, I met him. He's a fantastic personality.
He is. I have a lot of time.
And
for
lovely
him.
bloke.
Yes, and so humble and down to earth, and that's what I love about him.
And in terms of your restaurant, so please tell us about how many branches you have, and what is the next?
Yeah, at the moment I have 12, and those 12 sort of start in Glasgow.
With the name of, what is the name of
The name is Akbar.
Akbar's.
Yeah, Akbar, which is named after my father. My father was Akbar. And so my branches start in Glasgow, and all the major cities from Glasgow downwards right to Birmingham. I have only 3 cities to do now, and that is Nottingham, Leicester and London. Once I've done those 3, which inshallah I'm hoping to complete by the next 3 years, I do 1 restaurant a year, then that would take Akbar's as the first national independent chain in the UK for Indian restaurants, with something that's never been done or achieved by anybody else in my industry.
So what is the secret of the success? Because if we talk about the Kashmiri, Pakistani and Indian dishes, so what is the secret of that success?
Okay, well, I'm going to get you to answer that one in a very simple way. The secret is in the food. The secret is in the meals that you sell. The secret is in the taste of what you cook. And it's like this. Mr. Nazir, for example, let's say you're at home. You decide as a family you want to eat, whether it be a fish and chips, whether it be pizza, whether it be curry, anything. As a group, you all know which is your favorite fish and chips place.
Of course we know.
Yeah? You all, if you decide to have pizzas, you know where you're going to order from. And you probably order from the same place all the time. Now, this could be a number of reasons. Well, generally 2 reasons. One is because, and the big reason, 80%, is because you love the taste of that pizza. And everybody's happy. And the other one, 20%, could be because you know somebody there. But that's minor. But even if your own brother had a pizza place, and if it wasn't nice, didn't taste good, you know you wouldn't order it. You'd still stick to your favorite, would you not? And that's what it is. It's about creating that taste which draws people back time after time for that.
So do you train your chefs yourself or somebody else?
Yes. Everything on my menu is my recipes. I train all the chefs. Every chef in Akbar's has been an ex-dishwasher. But if at the same time there was a guy who's just never worked in a restaurant in his life, and says, I'm looking for a job, I'll take him on.
If, for example, if international chefs comes to you, do you take him?
No. Because you know why? We don't require their skill, because what I have put on the menu has been tried and tested over the last 21 years. We've been going for 21 years. 21 years ago, I started with a menu which had 100 dishes. Now we end up with 60. Because what I've been doing over the years is the ones that have not been working, selling, getting rid of, rather than adding more. So consolidate, keep what sells well and do that well, rather than having hundreds and just for the sake of having a massive menu. So all I need now is, we need people that can cook exactly the way we want them to cook. We don't want them to change it. We don't want them to, because it's what people love and they're happy with. See, my customers come week in, week out, week in, week out, and they know the menu and the dishes better than I do.
So Shabir, of course, this is the commercial sense that you have to make. But after a successful entrepreneur, Do you think that as an entrepreneur, we can do a lot of things for third world? And any particular charity you are working with at the moment?
Yeah, I tend to work with a few English charities, and I'll tell you why. Because look, everybody wants to work with some kind of Muslim charity, which is all good and great work, and I'm all in favour for them, and I'm glad they are. But I think, look, this country is what's given us a chance to establish ourselves, to get on our feet, yeah? And we need to put a little bit back here.
I'll rephrase the question. So it means all charities are doing a wonderful job anyhow.
Yes.
So whether we Oxfam, we talk about
Sure.
any international charities. Sure. So because you have seen the other side of the coin, because if we'll talk about the difficulties, non-purified water, difficulty is in education system. So what things which you want to change in third world countries with the help of your own or with the help of your friends?
I think we'd love to see more education in these third world countries, because education is the tool for moving forward in future. Of course, education can only be concentrated once the belly is full and the body is clothed. These are more necessity, I understand, medication and so forth. But I believe education is the future. I think education is a massive one. So if I was to work on any, then I would work down those routes.
And in terms of any message for our viewers, if you will recommend a dish that this is the dish, your favorite dish, they should make it at home and they should try it. Which is your favorite dish?
My favorite dish, if I was to have chicken all day and every day, it would be fried chicken. Fried chicken is one of my best dishes that I've created. And if it was lamb, then it would have to be palak gosht. I love the combination of the vegetable and the meats in that stew. Is fantastic. Those are my two favorite dishes. Can never go wrong. Whether it's for a meal for a family or whether it's at a wedding venue, that's the meals that we would recommend.
And do you have any vision that you will go to Europe or any other countries with your restaurant chain? Or
I haven't thought about it, because I obviously have some work cut out for me in England at the moment. Having done that, I think I'd pretty much want to sort of take the back seat after that.
Okay.
I wanted to initially really retire at 45. I'm gone past that, so I'm kind of looking forward to retiring.
And what is your message for our viewers who are watching today this show?
The message is, I hope you have a wonderful Christmas, and we hope to see you sometimes in the restaurants.
And in terms of Bradford, any message for the people in Bradford?
In the message of, yes, I'd like to particularly thank people of Bradford, because that's what I started from, and over the years of the support that they've given me, which is fantastic, and it's the confidence that the people of Bradford have given me to go to other cities. So I have a big thank you for Bradford.
Thank you, Shabir.
Thank you
very much for joining.
Thank you.
Goodbye from me. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Keep watching Sheffield Live TV. Thank you very much.